So one of the things that comes up more and more in elder abuse and probate cases is so and so forged the will for my dad, or so and so forged the will in the last days of life. And how do you prove that? Well, in fact, there is a whole industry of people and experts who review documents and make those determinations. And I really had the fascinating experience of reviewing the work of Patricia Hale in a recent case. Patricia joins us from Texas, correct?
Correct. Thanks for having me, Bill.
Sure. And you are a forensic forgery expert.
Correct.
That's a mouthful. What does that mean?
That simply means that we take handwriting signatures and we authenticate them or determine if they're forged or not.
And so, how common is this in the case of wills and trusts and those kind of related documents?
Well, it's very common, more than what you would imagine, probably. We do signatures on wills, on deeds, on contracts. I mean, you name it. Anytime anyone has a question of whether their signature is forged or not, then that's when they would contact a handwriting expert or an expert document examiner.
Now, I've been in the case, one recently that was turned out being a project of yours or a client of yours. I've been in other cases that didn't, where I looked at them and it was obvious. I mean, I'm not looking for your job or anything, but I'm just saying sometimes it's just not close. You have a deed of trust and you have the will, and you go, that's not even the same person. I know personally, I was the subject of a fraud. I always signed William J. Gross, and somebody signed it Will Gross. Now people call me Bill or William. I've never used the word Will before, so that was an easy one to prove as well. I imagine when people call you, they already suspect the signature is bad, or else why would they bring it to your attention? What percentage of the time when documents are brought to you, do you find that it's forged or not certifiably correct?
Well, you're absolutely right. Most time people suspect that their name has been tampered with or forged, and then that's where I come in. And you're absolutely right. It kind of reminds me of that video series, World's Dumbest Criminals. Some of them are just so blatantly obvious, and then some of them get pretty good at forging. So what I do is I take the suspect signature and compare it to maybe 6 to 12 known signature samples of that person.
Mm.
And we run it through a series of tests using the ACE methodology, which is purportedly used by the FBI, Secret Service, and Postal Service. And we run it through a series of maybe about 20 to 30 different tests.
Wow. And so you say 20, 30 tests, does that mean you analyze it based on 20 or 30 criteria, or do you use computers to do this, or what does a test look like?
Yeah, we run it through probably about 20 to 30 different criteria. We enlarge them approximately 200%, put them under the microscope and examine them. And the things we're looking for are shape, size, connecting strokes, ending strokes, the beginning strokes, the slants, the angles, the eye dots, how you cross the T-bars, hooks, no hooks, loops, just the general appearance of the writing. So there's a lot of different things that we look at.
Now, I mean, I'm one of those people who has fairly sloppy handwriting. Truth is, I broke my finger years ago and didn't do the right rehab, so my handwriting is terrible. In addition to my signature, I'm one of those people who says, "Well, you can't even read my writing." But I imagine even people like me, and probably a lot of us who have sloppy handwriting, we have distinctive sloppiness. Is that the case, that everybody kind of has the same kind of process for signing things?
Yes, you're absolutely right. Handwriting is more like fingerprint, DNA, voice recognition. It's in your brain. It's brain writing. So you have particular habits that you consistently do. Now, we believe that no one can produce their signature identically, but you have those similar handwriting characteristic traits. You have a pattern, and that's what we look at. But you're right. Sometimes you can hardly read the letters, but there is a pattern. They're either thread-like, or they're either pointed or up and down, or the size or the shape or the distance between them. So you do have a pattern.
Mm-hmm. I had a case once where it was a forged will. It was obvious because the date of the notary was 2 years after the date of death on the death cert, so we knew. Unless he was a ghost, we knew, and I guess somebody can make a claim that their ghost will come back. But when somebody finds something that appears to be forged, will or something of a loved one, you mentioned 6 documents. How much, sometimes you have 1 or 2 items or public records, easy to find, let's say deed of trust or grant deed or whatever. But how many documents do you need to find? Or are you able to find some maybe that I wouldn't think about?
Yes, we usually send over a list on where you can obtain samples if you don't have them readily available. And that could be off of other legal documents, applications, checks, driver's license, social security deeds. Now, if someone cannot get 6 to 12, then we'll do the exam based on what they can get. Because we've actually had cases where we've had to do them on 1 or 2 because the opposition destroyed the evidence, and that's all they had.
Wow. So it seems to me as a practitioner in real estate that fraud of this type, senior elder abuse fraud, is growing exponentially. And I'm sure not all of your cases involve, I should say all cases of fraud aren't elder abuse, but that segment, I think, seems to be exploding. Is that your experience?
Yes, yes. Baby boomers are growing and reaching that point where there's a lot of forgery going on.
Now, if somebody suspects, oftentimes there are people who are fairly modest situations. I don't mean to pin you down to a price, but can you give me an idea of what's it take to at least get you to evaluate to see if it's worth pursuing a forgery? If I had a will and it looked to me to be completely, and maybe I knew the caregiver was nefarious, I knew there were problems to begin with, what's it going to cost me to get to an opinion to say either A, this is clearly forged, or B, this is worthy of additional investigation?
Yeah, there is a range. I mean, because we're all independent experts, and so people set their prices. So there is a range, and there's a reasonable range, and then there's some people that really go way above. My prices are about the average prices, and right now I usually charge around $1,500 for an exam with a written letter, but then occasionally we do run half price specials to help people out. So it's about, like with the half price special, it's $750 to do an exam on one signature and to receive that written notarized summary letter.
You know, I was scared to ask the question, but I'm surprised at how reasonable that is. I think that's when you're talking about a will controlling a $500,000 interest in a property, that's a small price to pay. And for anybody watching this, I will say that many times if I'm involved in the case, we're able to advance the funds of this type to the administrator on behalf of the estate or on behalf of an heir probate advance. And so don't let this get in the way. Don't let $1,500 get in the way of a significant amount of money. And more importantly, don't let somebody cheat you or steal from your family for that kind of money. There's ways that that kind of money can be made. So now, is there a geographic issue to your licensing or your expertise? I mean, are you allowed to review documents in all 50 states or just Texas, or where are you able to do your business?
We do work in all 50 states. We're not regulated by any state or federal regulatory agency. So we do work in all 50 states. I actually have done work in Canada, the Bahamas, Europe. I did a case over there, and I believe in South America. No, it was Africa. I did a passport case.
And so in the case I worked in, I got kind of a letter that documented that there was a forgery and some explanations as to why, as well as your resume or qualifications. So that's part of the package. You said $1,500. Now sometimes it goes further than that, and somebody has to get challenged in court. Then are you available, I'm sure, for some sort of a fee to come in as an expert witness to substantiate your claim or to give the other side a chance to argue with you?
Yes, we do go to court when needed. A lot of times we'll do that remotely nowadays with the modern technology that they have, and I will appear in person too. A lot of times it doesn't get to that point because our letter does help cases settle.
Yeah.
A lot of the cases that I do get are not even court cases. So it's a small percentage, but yes, we will go to court and I will go to court to defend my findings.
And, and I think you say that, I remember the case that we hired you for, I'm thinking, wow, this sounds like a long shot. And then when I read your letter, I thought, well, that ends that. Like, and I'm not the participant. I'm just thinking the other side. And I actually heard the other party on video today, and she just sounds defeated. Like she's got no place. What is she going to argue? She's obviously desperate, and I don't want to accuse her of a crime, but the reality is the document she provided isn't even close. So again, for anybody listening to this, let's not let your family be ripped off by somebody who's cheating the system. And there's obviously legitimate arguments over how heirship should be split, but let's not let a forged document or will get in the way. So, Patricia, thank you so much for your time today. If somebody's interested in getting more information about your service or retaining you, attorneys or administrators or fiduciaries, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can reach me at my website. It's www.forensicforgeryexperts.com, or you can call the office, and that office number is 216-302-4155.
Fantastic. And we'll put her website and the phone number in the show notes down below. And like I said, she's not just somebody that does this business, but I am a interested party on a transaction. I saw her get hired. I saw her results. I thought, wow, this is something that I know other people need. And again, just to reiterate, I thought the fee is very reasonable. I expect you to say a couple $1,000s minimum, $15 for finding in a letter. And additionally, if need be, that money can be financed. I can talk to you about that if you need some help. Patricia, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, Bill. You're doing a great service.
Thanks.